Hey everybody, welcome to summer reading. We have made it to June. Can you believe it? And now that the weather is starting to get warm, well, with the exception of last week, which really came out of nowhere, we're going to learn how to make some really cool stuff that's a lot of fun. Everything this year is going to be kind of colorful, not just because I love all the colors, but because our summer reading theme is Reading Colors Your World. Can you imagine what the world would be like without stories? It would be very bland, very black and white. Nobody would be happy ever. It would be very sad. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make pom-poms. Now, if you go to the store, you can get a pom-pom maker. And it looks like two little hooks that feed together, and then there's a circle in the middle. Okay, and you wrap yarn and you wrap yarn. Well, sometimes you don't want to spend money you don't have to spend. I'm a big fan of not spending money that I don't have to spend. So I found out how to make pom-poms using cardboard and yarn and scissors, because let's face it, everything in the world involves scissors. So what you need, a piece of cardboard that is big enough for you to draw two circles on. You want something that you can trace. Today we're going to vote for Sophia, and we're going to trace two circles on this piece of cardboard, okay? Two circles. Then I'm going to cut these circles out. And once they're cut out, I'm actually going to, and I'm going to show you my first thing that I made. I kind of freehanded it, and it's a little jankety. It's okay, it worked. That's how I made these little guys, and they turned out just fine. Okay, you cut two circles, then you cut from the inside, and you make a little, it looks kind of like a C or like a Pac-Man. Okay, so once you get everything cut, then you have to wind. First thing you're gonna do, before we even start winding though, I'm gonna cut a big piece of string to put between these two pieces, these two C's. And let me tell you why. The first pom-pom I tried to make, I got everything wound up and then realized there was no way I was going to be able to tie it off, because you need to have a piece of string that you can tie around the middle. So I had to unwind this much yarn to come back and put a piece of yarn between the two, okay? So once I have this little sandwich made, and I want to be sure that the two openings are together. Get in there. All right, so once you've got your little sandwich, this guy can kind of get tucked up out of the way. Just be sure it doesn't get wound up with the rest of your yarn, okay? You take a piece, hold this, and I'm going to start winding. Do not pull your yarn tight. If you pull your yarn tight, you will be sad. When you do the cutting, it's going to come out and just spring everywhere, and you're going to have no control over your yarn. So simply by being gentle and taking your time, you're going to wind, ooh, that's very bright, until you've got about half your circle full of yarn, okay? And again, I'm not going to sit here and make you wait while I wind all of this. This took probably about 10 minutes, okay? Now, you can see I still have access to my two pieces of yarn, or my one piece of yarn that's between the two C's. And the first thing, before I even pull them free, I am going to start to tie a knot, okay? Now, problem with dealing with yarn is you get it in your mouth. You'll see these strings are still down between the two pieces of cardboard, okay? And I'm going to start pulling. And I'm going to pull as tight as I can, and I'm going to hold these guys, okay? In fact, before I even move on to the next stage, I'm going to start the second half of this knot. Now I'm going to leave my finger in there because I don't want it to tie off yet. I am definitely not ready for this knot to be completed. But trust me when I say, unless you've got a friend there who can help you and do like the package thing that you always see in the movies from the 30s, you're not going to want to pull this too tight. So pull this tight. Oops, there's my finger in the middle. That's okay. I'm going to hold it with one hand. Hold this tight. And then, there we go. So my knot is still ready to go, but it's not tied yet, which is kind of where I want to be. Okay. Then we got to start clipping. You could do this with scissors. You're going to put your blades between the two things and you're going to start snipping. Here's the thing. You're not going to get the leverage you want using scissors. Okay? You could use a box cutter and cut along this line. If you do that, be careful. It will slip, you will cut your hand, you will bleed, and I am not going to be held responsible for that, okay? Not that that's ever happened to me, ever. Right, okay. But we have these cute little shears. They kind of remind me of sheep shearers. And they allow me to get in there, oops, and cut. Now it's going to take a minute, and that's okay. I'm going to trim this guy, set him free. Now as I go, I can take a moment and come in and retighten that. Okay, and then keep going. If you do use scissors, give yourself time. It's just, has to do with leverage. See, these guys have their lever all the way in the back. So I'm putting forth very little effort to close these two blades, but they have a lot of strength because they're coming from all the way back here. So they have that lever, that leverage of all the way back here, cutting here. When you do your scissors, it's the same thing. The difference is these blades are so long. When you get to the end, you've lost some of your pressure. And these scissors, you can see they don't quite meet, okay? Out at the end they do, but those blades need to rub together to cut. I can't do that. When I get out to the end of these, the lever's all the way back here, and those blades are just gonna separate and they're not gonna cut anything. This is made, yep, the lever's still back here, but the blades are short, and they're spring-loaded, and that spring is right up here close to where you're gripping. That's going to allow you to have the control that you need to do little clippy clips and set everything free, okay? And you say, why don't you just, oops, sometimes you gotta flip them. Yep. Apparently they only want to clip one way today. But I'm still putting the blade between the two pieces of cardboard and using that as my guide to keep track, and that keeps everything nice and equal, which is super cool. All right. You say, why don't you just do all the clipping and then tie off your string? Well, you can't do that, because right now we've got a couple hundred little pieces of yarn that are all held together by half a knot. Oh no! See, that's what happens. That's what happens when you show off. By half a knot all the way here. Okay. Yes, we lost a few pieces of yarn. I'm not going to worry about it. You don't either. Okay. We can take the cardboard off. I'm going to put my thumb down here, and I'm going to tie this string. Okay, I want to be sure everything stays good and tight. This is where if you have a friend who can help you, it can be very useful. Okay, because they can put their finger there and hold it in place. Then you want to wrap the other direction, and you're going to tie another knot. So if your first knot wasn't very snug, your second knot can be a lot better. Okay? Get your friend to help you if you need to. This is where the pom-pom maker really has it going on, though, because you're holding everything still while you tie. But again, why am I going to spend money if I don't have to? Once everything's tied, we're going to floof this little guy. Now I like to hold on down here where my knot is, and I kind of look and I say, oh, he's really uneven. So I'm going to start trimming. I'm just going to make him roughly spherical. Okay. The softer your yarn, the softer your your pom-pom. Okay. Get a couple long ones, so we'll take care of those. So you're kind of giving it a haircut, making it nice and spherical. Now, oops, you have a wonderful little pom-pom that you can use to put on a present or on anything else. You've got all these little pieces around too, which just makes it fun. Like I said, that's how you get yarn up your nose. But you have this nice little pom-pom. He's nice. He's fairly symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that's okay, because it's super cute, it's super easy to make, and it's cheap. These are all things we love in this whole world. All right? Because we're doing summer reading, and because this is the first craft of summer reading, and that side needs a little trim. Can be dangerous. Never trim your own bangs. Remember that, especially the first day of school. Thankfully, not a lesson I had to learn. Somebody else did, and I learned from their mistake. He's very floofy. You can also use a boar bristle brush to kind of break up these fibers and make it even fuzzier. Okay, so there are lots of cool things you can do, and you'll see this guy is only slightly smaller than the circle I started with. So the circle I started with, that's how you decide how big of a pom-pom you want, is how big of a circle you start with. Okay. Also, you want to be sure that when I drew this, I had a slightly smaller circle I could put inside, and I left about 1 inch here. I'm guessing the bigger circle you get, you're going to want to have proportional lengths of yarn. The bigger your circle, the thicker this has to be, okay? So if you have any questions, give us a call, come in. If this is yarn you've got around the house, awesome. And we will see you guys. We're also going to be making tassels. So if a pom-pom isn't for you, go ahead and try making a tassel. Come and check out our other video where we'll learn how to do that too, all right? These are great for just decorating and throwing a splash of color in your house and your life. Everybody have a great one, and we'll see you next week. Hey everybody, thank you once again for joining us for our colorful crafts this summer reading, our very first week where we made a tassel and a pom-pom. Your color word, or I should say your password for this week to get your badge for watching the video is Rosy, R-O-S-Y, Rosy. Thank you all very much. You have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.